U.S. and Ukrainian officials are gearing up for another high-level meeting to discuss peace talks, the first since the explosive confrontation in the White House on February 28th. President Zelenskyy traveled to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to meet with the Saudi Crown Prince and Prime Minister Mohammed bin Salman on Monday, and on Tuesday, the United States and Ukrainian delegations will hold talks in the Red Sea port city of Jeddah. There is a concrete first proposal by the Ukrainian side, a ceasefire in the air and at sea, but not on the ground. And now joining me to discuss these talks and what we can expect is Director of the Polish Institute for International Affairs, Jarosław Ćwiek-Karpowicz. Hello, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Yes, now President Zelenskyy today meeting with Crown Prince bin Salman. What is Zelenskyy going to try and communicate to the Crown Prince as we approach what we would expect to be a long series of peace talks?
I mean, there are many important things between Saudi Arabia and Ukraine. For example, both countries are very much interested in the, let's say, stable situation in Syria, because still there is a Russian presence in Syria, and Saudi Arabia, as a Sunni country, is very much influential on the Middle East, and its main opponent, Iran, would like still be very present in Syria. So this is one of the examples of the common interest. But also, I mean, the Ukrainian government knows that Russia is influential everywhere, so it's important to hit Russian interests around the world. And also, last but not least, crude oil prices. For Saudi Arabia, the crude oil prices are very important to stabilize its economy, but still this country has some limit of maneuver. Mm-hmm. For Russia, this is the main source of the main income, also to finance the military expenditures. So that's why Ukraine really would like to have Saudi Arabia on its board. And this visit was announced some time ago, so it was planned before. And now I think this is a good opportunity for Volodymyr Zelenskyy just to come to Saudi Arabia as a parallel to the peace talk, which would held tomorrow.
Yes, now Ukraine is proposing a ceasefire in the air and at sea, but not on the ground, as they fear that the Russians will regroup and attack again. What do you make of this proposal?
I mean, this is that's exactly what Donald Trump wanted from Ukrainians, to be very constructive. And this is a proposal which is very good. I mean, because partial ceasefire may indeed secure Ukrainian interest, Ukraine economy, which is hit by Russian rockets and aerial bombs and strikes, and also access to the global markets through the Black Sea. So that's why partial ceasefire would be very beneficial for Ukraine. But also, this is what is still the Ukraine problem, that this time could be used by Russians to make some advance on the ground. So that's why the ground ceasefire is still impossible for Ukrainians without any security guarantees. So that's why this is exactly the partial ceasefire. This is a Ukrainian proposal without any conditions, right?
Right, and then we still have the minerals deal, which still kind of hangs in the balance. I imagine they will discuss it. Potentially, there might be a signing of a deal. Do you think that it's in Ukraine's interest to still move forward with this deal in light of Donald Trump saying that he's likely not to reinstate the weapons deliveries or the intelligence sharing?
I mean, indeed, the minerals deal is not so, let's say, crucial for Ukrainians as it was 2 weeks ago. I think also the situation is a little bit different. I mean, now, first of all, the Ukrainian government is completely supported by the society. So this is the effect of Trump's, very negative speech towards Zelenskyy. There's opposite effect. There is a consolidation among the Ukrainian society. Secondly, Ukraine army is still holding its position. There is no progress on the ground, and this is I think quite astonishing. That Russians they are not using this time to make some a serious attack on Ukraine. So it shows us that Ukrainians are quite in a good condition. And thirdly, I think that this political support of Europeans, I think it's something also unexpected. So that's why I think that before tomorrow's talks, Ukrainians are in a much better position than it seems to be like a week ago. And of course, mineral deal, it's still something how to, let's say, having once again the Ukrainian, the American assistance or support, but it's not so, critical as it was 2 weeks ago.
The United States also wants to see Ukraine make territorial concessions. We know the Ukrainian line, and it's really not changed. How do you see this panning out? Do you think that Ukraine does need to make some certain territorial concessions, or do you think this may be impossible due to the constitution, right, in Ukraine?
Yeah, as far as I understand the current situation, the territorial concession is not in the sense that Ukrainians should give more territory to Russia, but rather to accept de jure the changing of its borders. And this is something which we are right. Probably Ukrainians would be asked as a next step, and I'm not quite sure if it will be red line and Ukrainians say no, we don't want to accept the Russian invasion, right? But I hope that we are still far away from this point, because this concessions, so-called legitimization of Russian attack, would have very negative impact on the whole Europeans' architecture, security architecture, and also the international law system. So that's why I think that hopefully U.S. government would be not so, let's say, strong in.
Well, do you think that the Trump administration understands the ramifications for international law and what a precedent this would set?
It's not the most important point, for sure, for them. For us, for Europeans, especially here in Poland, it would be very difficult to convince other countries which are in Central Eastern Europe that, look, we can promise you, or we may somehow obey international law just to protect your interests. Definitely it would be a very bad signal for these countries to be, let's say, more adapt to the situation that the stronger has, let's say, better position. In this regard, the stronger are the Russians.
Right. We have just about 1 minute left. I'd like to get a quick reaction to the Twitter match going on between Foreign Minister Sikorski and Elon Musk when talking about Starlink for Ukraine. Do you think that, and based on what we saw in the Oval Office, do you think that maybe some of these more influential people don't need to be challenged in public, or do you think that this was a great move by Foreign Minister Sikorski?
I mean, for sure, I support my foreign minister in explaining Americans how its assistance to Ukraine is indeed realized by Europeans, by our means. It means that the Starlink system is co-financed also by the Polish side. But the second thing, which is also very important, is also like between Zelenskyy and Trump discussion. I think there's the second example of intervention, someone who has no, let's say, power to say something. Elon Musk has no position in the US government dealing with foreign policy. So why Elon Musk said something about the American assistance towards Ukrainians? So Radek Sikorski's response to Elon Musk provoked Rubio response, which is good, because Mr. Rubio is a state secretary and definitely should has a much more clear position, and he was not so vocal during the Zelenskyy and Trump discussion. Now he had a chance, which is good, and Radek Sikorski's response at the very end was that, thank you, Mr. State Secretary, for confirmation that US and Poland is dealing together in providing internet assistance to Ukraine.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much. Jarosław Ćwiek-Karpowicz, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. And that concludes this edition of World News Tonight. Thanks for joining, and see you next time. Good night.